I was reading Hebrews 10:14 the other day, and this scripture really has clung on to me for the last couple of weeks because I believe it is the basis in our whole relationship with Jesus and the whole way that we walk through this life. It says, "For by that one offering he forever made perfect those who are being made holy." This is it. This is it. This one scripture should be the foundation to everything. It's why we can have a relationship with Jesus. It's why we have the power over sin. It's why we don't have to go through the world struggling and depressed and anxious. It's why we don't have to fall into our flesh. It's why we don't have to give into sin. It's why we don't have to feel alone. For by that one offering he forever made perfect those who are being made holy. That one offering is the offering of Jesus Christ, the sacrifice that he made. Jesus was seated. Get this. This is the message. This is the message to everything. And we lost this message. We know the message, but we lost the power behind the message of this one offering. Because I look at the world today and everybody has to be right and has their own opinions. It says, "For by that one offering, the offering of Jesus Christ," that he is God, but he would sit in the heavenly places and decide, I'm going to pour out all of my godly power, all of my divinity and authority to take the place of a human being, to be lower than the powers of the angels. I'm going to limit myself and humble myself to come from heaven and to walk on earth. And Jesus would come down in the flesh. It said in John chapter 1 that the Word, meaning God, Jesus, would come in the flesh, be a human being. And he would go through the same things that we go through. Loss, betrayal, anger, fear to the point where his capillaries were bursting. He started bleeding out of his pores because he was so stressed. Fear. And he went through all these things. He was tempted just like we are tempted. Tempted with fleshly desires. Tempted with lust, pride. Tempted to be a ruler over everything when it wasn't his time yet to be a ruler. Tempted by everything. Going through the same things that we went through. But here's the beautiful thing about it. This is so powerful. He never gave in. Not one time did Jesus fall into sin. Not one time did he slip up and make a mistake. Not one time did he do something he wasn't supposed to do and say, "Oh, my bad." He never fell. He never led into temptation. He never sinned. He was completely perfect. And he treated everybody with compassion. He was moved for them. He cared for people. He loved people. He wanted to teach people the truths about heaven, to know the secrets of God coming out of the mouth of God. He wanted to steward people, disciple people, father people, and they still hated him. They hated him. They hated him so badly to where they would plot day and night. How can we kill Jesus? Because we don't believe that he's the Messiah. We don't believe that he's the Son of God. And they plotted and they schemed and they tried time after time to trap him, to get him in a position where he was vulnerable, make him slip up. Then they would have an excuse to imprison him or sentence him to death. But they never could find a reason. They never could trap him because he was perfect. He never made a mistake. And then one day, as you know the story, there's this disciple, Judas, one of his closest followers, betrays him. Even Jesus had somebody in his life close to him that would betray him. I think there's going to be some times in your life, and there's times in my life where people have betrayed me who are really, really close to me. And it's what we do after that betrayal that really shapes our life. Jesus didn't blame Judas. He didn't say, "Judas, how could you do that to me? Why would you do that to me?" He he accepted the betrayal, and he was given over to the hands of the high priest, these people who wanted to kill Jesus. And they took Jesus into council, and all the religious leaders and all the Jews, they were saying, let's kill him, crucify him. He says he's the king of the Jews. This is blasphemy. He's not God. Let's have him killed. Send him to Pilate, who's a Roman governor over the region of Judea, who has the authority to kill Jesus. Send him to Pilate. Let's have him decide to kill Jesus. So they take him to Pilate. And Pilate says, well, what do you want me to do with this man? He said, kill him, crucify him. We want him dead. He says that he's the king of the Jews. We believe that Caesar is the only king. Which is an off-the-wall statement by the Jews because they didn't have any respect for Roman officials or Roman government. They actually, in years to come, they would try to overthrow the Roman government. So for them to say that Jesus was claiming to be the king of the Jews and only Caesar is their king was completely nonsense. But they hated him. But he was perfect. But they hated him. They said, kill him. He says he's the king of the Jews. Kill him. And Pilate says, are you the king of the Jews? Why do they want to kill you? Where did you come from? Are you from Nazareth? And he's asking Jesus all these questions, and Jesus doesn't answer him. And Pilate gets frustrated. He says, don't you understand that I have the authority to either release you or to sentence you to die? And Jesus said, the only one who has authority is my Father. Pretty much saying, Pilate, you have no control over my life. Whatever the Father wants me to do is what I will do. Now, the Jews are getting rowdy. A mob is starting to form, and Pilate kind of forces his hand and has to give Jesus over to the Jews who would send him away and ultimately kill him. But he was perfect. I don't understand. It's really hard for me to comprehend that it was a perfect human being, but yet they hated him so much they wanted to kill him. And they take him from where Pilate's at, and they blindfold Jesus, and they strip him of his clothes, so now he's naked and he's blindfolded, and they beat him, and they mock him. They would hit him and say, well, you're the Son of Man, tell us who hit you. Tell us who hit you. Tell us who hit you. Hey, Jesus, you're the Son of God. Who hit you that time? Who hit you that time? Who spit on you right there? Who pulled on your beard? Who pushed you over? Then they took rods, big sticks, and they beat him, and they whipped him with it, and they mocked him, and they said, if you're really the Son of God, who hit you? Who spit on you? And he's broken, and he's bruised, and he's beaten, and he's naked, and he's embarrassed in front of everybody, and it's harsh, and they're mocking him and spitting on him, and he's broken and tattered. And then they sent him to be flogged, which means to be whipped. They took his body and they changed his hand. This is how they did it. Roman crucifixion. They would chain their hands and lay him over like this concrete slab, like this table. And they laid Jesus' body over and chaining his hands. And they took a whip and they would start beating on his back. And this whip was 3 leather cords. And in these cords was embedded with lead, metal, and bones, shards of bones. And they whipped him over and over and over again, and they're still mocking him. And now his back is torn. His flesh is being ripped apart. Imagine your back just shredding open. Now the muscle is coming out. Now the tendons and blood is dripping from his back down. And now he's just in a pool of his own blood. And they're whipping him. And they're saying, if you really are the Son of God, save yourself. And they're not stopping. They're going to the point where he's almost dead. And they take him and they dress him up in a fine robe. And they weave together this crown made out of thorns, and they take the thorns and they put it on his head, and they beat it with a stick down to his skull. Now there's thorns pressed into his flesh of his head. And blood's running down his face, and he's beaten and bruised. And they're saying, look, he really is the Son of God. Look at his crown. Look at how nicely he's dressed. Still mocking him. And this is really hard for me to fathom because he's perfect. All he wanted to do was love people. All he wanted to do was spread the message that God was coming to save them. But they hated him. They tortured him. They mocked him. They beat him. He was perfect. I don't understand it. And then they took this big cross, this wooden cross, what is plastered over all of our churches. It hangs on all of our necklaces. We got tattoos of it. And it's a Roman crucifixion murder weapon. They used it to kill people brutally. It was the harshest death that you could go through. And they take this big wooden cross. It's believed to be anywhere from 250 pounds to 300 pounds, and they throw it on the back of Jesus, this back that was just so brutally torn apart, whipped after whipped after whipped after whipped with this lead and these shards of bones. They rip his back to shreds. Then they take this torture weapon and they throw it on his back. The weight of our sin falls on his back. Everything, it falls on him. And I wonder where did we lose sight of the message of the cross? Where do we all think we have to be right? And they take this cross and they throw it on the back of Jesus and they say, carry it. Carry the cross. We just beat you. We whipped you. We just put holes in your head and we tore your back across to shreds. But now you have to carry the very thing that you are going to die on. And he carries it up this mountain called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Where people would go to be sentenced to death by crucifixion, and they made him drag it. All this weight on his back, he's beaten. But I have a hard time understanding this because he's perfect. All he wanted to do was love the world. All he wanted to do was for people to know him. And they get to the top of this mountain. And they take nails and they drive it through his hands. They take the nails and they pierce it between his bones, through his flesh and the muscle and his tendons, and it's shredding apart in his hands. And they do the same with his feet. They take these big nails and they press it. And they pin him up against this Roman torture weapon. And now his back is pressing against this rigid wood. Is pressing against the cross. Because the way you would die by crucifixion, you would suffocate, and every time you wanted a gasp of air, you would have to push up on the nails in your feet. You would have to push up on the nails that are cutting through your feet, and it would gorge his feet to shreds, and you'd push up, and his back is pressing into this rigid wood. His back that has just been torn open by a whip made of metal and bones. It cut him. And now he's such an agony in his feet and his hands, and he's pressing and he can't breathe, and blood starts to fill his lungs. And the worst part about it, he's up on the cross and he says, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? Because no longer can he be with the Father. Because he took the sin of you and me on his back so that we could forever be made right with him. Forever being made perfect with him because of the one offering he made. And he's up there and he goes through this whole series of events. And I can't understand it because he's perfect. All he wanted to do was love you and me. All he wanted to do was love you and me. And they're gambling for his clothes in the front of him. He's hanging on the cross and Roman soldiers take the clothes that they ripped off him and now they're gambling over them. They don't even care that Jesus, this perfect, beautiful, beautiful man, is up here on this cross and he's dying and he's being tortured. They're gambling for his clothes. They don't care. And even still, they're mocking him. They're saying, if you really are the Son of God, just come off the cross. Just come off, Jesus. If you're really this big and bad God, just save yourself. Save yourself, why don't you? And then he's thirsty, and you know what they give him? Not water. They give him sour wine. It tastes like vinegar. They put vinegar up to his mouth on a stick and a sponge. They put it up to his mouth, and they give him vinegar. But I don't understand it, because he's perfect. All he wanted to do was love you and me. And he takes on the sin of all the world. And he releases his very last breaths, and And he says, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Jesus, forgive them? You're perfect. You're telling me to forgive them. They don't know what they do. I think they knew exactly what they just did. They knew where to put the nails. They knew to take a cross and shove it into your head. Jesus, what are you talking about? They don't know what they do. What are you talking about? They don't understand. But that's who he is, because he's perfect. He's blameless, without fault. He was the sacrifice without blemish that we needed so that we could have a relationship with him. And now we are forever unceasable, unbreakable, eternally. We are forever made perfect, meaning whole, meaning no fault inside of you, meaning the sins that you once had in your life, the sins that you deal with now, and the sin of your future is no longer. You're perfect. You don't have to work for anything. You don't have to strive for anything. You can't lose your relationship with Jesus, all because of what he did on the cross. And I read this scripture and I look at what's going on in my life, and I look at the world, and I look at the church, and I think, man, where did we go so wrong that we forgot the whole essence of why we are Jesus followers to begin with? It's because of the cross. It's because of what Jesus did. It's because of who he is. It's because he sits at the right hand of the Father. It's because he loves us, but we don't get it. And we don't care about it, just like those Roman soldiers sat at the feet of Jesus and they gambled his clothes away and they mocked him. And now all of us want to have our own opinions and our own views and our own different way we do things. That's why we have 15,000 different denominations for one God, because we screwed it all up. It was never Jesus' intention for people to be divided, for people to be hurt, for people to have all these different perspectives, for people to go behind each other's back and talk bad about them. It was never Jesus' intention for betrayal. And I think, man, where did we go all wrong? That we took the message of Jesus Christ and we watered it all the way down. Don't we realize this man went through all the suffering in the world for us? Physically, mentally, spiritually, all of it, just so that we could be made perfect. But we want to talk about, well, my main message is just salvation. I just want to talk about deliverance. I just want to talk about discipleship. I want to go to this church because they sprinkle for their baptism, where these people, they more dunk for their baptism, or we believe in talking in tongues, where we believe in different types of prayer languages. And I just can't help but think, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? It was never about any of that. It was never about what the world has to offer. It was never about any of this. The only thing that ever mattered, the only thing that still matters, and the only thing I want you guys to receive from this, that this whole relationship with Jesus is because he died on a cross, because you and I weren't good enough to pay our sins. But that's what makes it so beautiful, is that we aren't worthy. We aren't worthy of his love, yet he still gives it. That's what it's all about. And I wonder what would happen if we were unified and really lived that out. I wonder what would happen if we were a force that just burned for the truth of who Jesus is and his cross. I believe that we wouldn't just talk about revival and saving our friends and our family. I believe that it would actually maybe happen. So many people talk, I want revival. I want Jesus to change some freaking lives. But we can't get there when we think we're right all the time. We can't get there if we water down the cross and the gospel. We can't get there if we look at everything Jesus did for us and we say it doesn't matter because I have my own viewpoint or my own opinion on it. I was praying this morning and I just said, God, what do you want to do? What do you want to say? How can I be a vessel for you, Lord? Just speak through me. And he said, I want to go back to the early days of the church when people knew this truth And that is why they gathered. That people knew the truth, that it was because of Jesus and only Jesus that we are forever and eternally made perfect. He said, I want to go back to the early days of the church where people gathered in my name and burned for me, and they knew that I was the only way. And this church that I'm talking about is not the church that we see today. We see a church with a bunch of different people, a bunch of different denominations. We see the cool lights, the cool worship. The church in the early days of Christianity didn't have a building where they could gather together. They met in homes in secrecy for 300 years. The church was never a building. It was a people who would gather together. And the reason they had to be in secret was because if the Jewish people found out, they would kill them. And not only kill them, they would kill them in horrific ways to make an example. Skinning people alive was one. Death by the sword, where they would put you on a post and they would stab you till you die. Throw you in acid. They would stone you, take big rocks and drop it and crush your body. But you know what's crazy to me? They didn't care. They never wanted to stop meeting with one another because they knew the truth of this passage, that by one offering we're forever made perfect because of what he did. How can we run away from that? How can we distort that? How can we take that truth and defile it? I can't help but burn for Jesus. And I think he just wants that for everybody else. That we would gather in perfect harmony and unison, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the world has. It doesn't matter about our theological differences or our doctrinal differences. It doesn't matter about our own opinions, who thinks they're right and who's wrong. What matters is what Jesus did on that cross, and how coming to know him and deepen a relationship with him changes our lives. He said, follow me and I will make you. Follow me. Follow the sacrifice that I made, because you can't make it on your own. You're not worthy enough to make it on your own. That's why I came in my godly form, to save you. I don't want you guys to go through the rest of your life not knowing the truth about what Jesus really has done for you. That because of his sacrifice, forever you are made perfect. There's no condemnation in Jesus, because he cleansed you of everything. I want you to know the truth of the gospel, the whole gospel. I don't want to give you just a fraction. I want you to know that everything we do is because of the one offering. It's because of Jesus Christ. It's because of the blood. It was because of the blood that was shed. It's because of his body that was broken. It's because of Jesus. It's because of Jesus. And it's not just a religion. And it ain't just a game. It's a relationship that you need in your life to truthfully fight and make it through the powers of this world. I want you guys to know where my heart is right now. I'm being vulnerable because I need you guys to know the truth. This is everything. And if you stray away from this truth, if you disregard the truth of the gospel and what Jesus really done, or you water it down, or you think discipleship is most important, or the way you baptize people is most important, whatever it might be, it's going to get flawed. It's going to get messed up. Everything we do has to be built on the foundation of Jesus Christ, the rock in which he sent for us, so that we might not die, but we will live eternally. I can't help but preach Jesus and the truth about Jesus until I die. That's what I'm going to do.